Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
In the world of creation, we had the two extremes, except in the case of the creator of Mitra, where we could never bring the functionality of the soul within the functionality of physicality. We had the physicality hidden within the soul, or soul within the physicality, or in conjunction of the two, one would never had the understanding of the totality, where we could transit but exist in both directions. With the new cycle, this is what Einstein said: when you turn one atom, the other atom changes. This new dimension will blow that field which commonly exists between all the cells of the universe into that position, which means all the created things, as a gift from the creator in a way, become able to transmute between the two dimensions. There's a reason for this, and it's taken a long time for it to be done, and it has reached its pinnacle, and it will be completed. It's already in the process of being completed. Was to take from the essence of the soul of every created things of the time, beginning of time, an essence of the creation of the soul or the center, and create a new creature which carries all the essence of the created in the new soul, which can with it go from the soul of the creator to the soul of physicality of Mitra. This is what the whole knowledge is. The creator is the universe, and Mitra the dimension of physicality and its behavior towards the dimension of physicality. And with a new system, every creature in the universe will have the understanding of the capability to transmute between the two. This has a lot of implication for all races in the universe, because now they all become the same. In the coming time, we will see even change in the position of galaxies, position of universes. Many systems will move due to the changes which has been brought. Man doesn't have that knowledge as such to monitor, but we'll have the knowledge to see, we'll have the time to see that with the new fields, as we call it, a lot of things will move in the right position to keep that ability to change between the two. That you don't need to kill to keep the physicality going, you don't need to steal. And the soul doesn't need to be engaged or to escape, to be out on its own, to be able to confirm its existence. And this process will complete very soon. That the whole of universal community will be able to have the benefit of the two, both in the dimension of energy or matter, which never existed. When we released the soul, we had to get rid of the physicality. You call it death. When we brought the soul, you had to give it the physicality, and you go through the dimension of the birth, and then you have the whole commotion of bringing the two. With a new system, both soul and the soul of physicality work together in the existence of dimension. We expect a massive change in the physical characteristics of human race in the coming century, because we change into the emotion of the physicality. The way, as I said many times, but many never understood, Indians and Pakistanis were the same, till one chose to take different kind of energy in the other one, and we see change of the feature. Now, with the balance between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of man, many of us will change feature, without a shadow of a doubt. Man will change the faces of anger, man will change the faces of hate, man will change the face of warmongering, because we get satisfied in the fields of it. And this is part of what will be and what has already started, and the completion of will be the birth of Mitra. Physical completion of birth of Mitra in a physical dimension, not in myths. And then we have the soul of the Creator, which the two will complete the cycle. And then, as I said very recently to one of my listeners, then we'll see if Adam will eat from the apple of love and giving it. And then we'll see how humanity will change. And the whole creation will change. We are at the verge of that change. Much, much closer than anybody could think of, not only a human race.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 426th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, March 31st, 2022. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department, part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be host here once again in these weekly Knowledge Seekers Workshops. And once again, we are joined with Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who will deliver the latest news and information and teachings from the Keshe Foundation and from himself. Okay, Mr. Keshe, are you ready to begin today?
Yes, good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers of the Spaceship Institute from somewhere on this planet and somewhere in a point in the universe. We welcome you back, and as usual, we try to share more knowledge and more understanding. Before the part of the teaching, Rick asked me a question to be clarified in respect to many of your questions about the spaceship units. The spaceship units and documents for it for some of you who want to submit it to your governments or to your institute and universities to make the request to receive it will be put together in the next couple of weeks completely with the headquarters and everything else to go with it, that the officials can take steps. When you do such a thing, the majority of the time, it's not that just you approach the government. The government then goes through foreign office goes through the embassy, and they usually have somebody in the embassy who's scientific attaché or something to do with the scientific part. And they appoint them to check, to come to see, and then get the documents, they report back to their foreign office, and foreign office goes to the government or to the university. This is a normal procedure. It'll take you about a month, sometimes 2 months, depends how much you push it. And so we're setting that structure up, that we have the what we call the personnel support to handle the embassies and scientific organizations from the government and universities. It's not that just you walk in and they say, yes, we get the gift. It'll take a month or two for that. And everything goes through a diplomatic. It's not that just you walked in and they accept your word and they do it. You submit the document we give you, and then we give you the offer of a letter of a gift of a unit to the country, and you ask it to be brought. They find most probably a university who can take charge of it, because governments don't do these things themselves. And you have to find a university, and the government says this university is prepared to do it, or this institute is prepared to do it. And then they accept responsibility and it gets done. We expect a lot of paperwork, and we have to get our end sorted out completely to give you the units. But the units which we control, the positions we control, we don't need this to satisfy the government's needs. It'll be done by us. Arizona, Austria, Tehran, Beijing. Most probably will land one in Nigeria to Alex, with the setting of having already a company there. Now it gives us allow that we can go to Australia directly because we already have companies there. Philippines is another point, foundation is there. We can shortcut to ours and then invite to do. So the first units which are getting to go will go in these positions that you have a what I call a reference when you go, that is already been done. We are ready to ship the first units in next few days. And with it, once we have everything we want cleared in the position and shipping, Arizona and Tehran and Austria will receive their units as it comes up. And then we have others to go through, and we build up that way. But those of you who have no point of reference, they have no companies of Keshe Foundation that we can work through, and then we'll go to what we call you have to go through the diplomatic and the universities to find the right match. We already have a setup in UK, so we can go directly into the structure. And the same is with Brazil. It's easy for us because we already have an established company there. And this will be done in that process, and that needs time. We have to prepare our side. There is a lot of movement in the background with the Keshe Foundation. And we don't announce it anymore because we used to do it. We get a lot of problem with a bunch of hooligans on the internet. And so we do it, we give you a point of reference. And when it comes in there, it will be handled by people who are appointed to do it. Then we need a couple of weeks ourselves to do it as a totality, that we are prepared that the emails and the inquiries doesn't come and stays on the table for weeks on that we can respond within days from now. I hope that answers a lot of you questions. And in a way, we are in the process of a lot of changes and a lot of movement. And there is we're waiting for one thing to clarify in the Keshe Foundation in the background, that we can proceed with the rest of it. In regard to the teachings of what I call understanding the process of the interaction of the fields, a lot of you have a problem, or a lot of people have a problem, that how do I recognize I want to land on the house number 6 on the street and not on number 4? I don't land in the wrong place. How accurate is the system? How do we land in a position? How can I know I want to land on the north of the moon, not on the south pole of the moon? How can I pinpoint accuracy to where I want to go? This goes back to the total understanding of the interaction of the fields in the universe. Is part of what we call the communication mind of what we have and what we choose to have. This is me with my soul, and I want to land here first at number 4 in the city of Tehran on the streets of whatever. This is the position I want to be. Then after that, I want to go to New York on the 5th Avenue to see Azar in her surgery. How do we do it? How do we know we land in the place, and how we know that when you arrived here, Azar is in the surgery and not travel to Tehran for the new year, where you just came from? Go back to the teachings. Go back to the understanding that every magnet has a connection with every magnetic field, every element ever produced in the universe. Through the system, through the structure of the soul, when you enter the enhancement flight unit and you enter what I call control unit, you're sitting here, what I call with a hair dryer on top of your head, and with your soul centered, beautifully dressed, waiting to fly. You have, when you have Azar and Tehran, You have the position 1 and then the soul of other 2. Pinpoint accuracy. Because one of these links is connected to the position and the place of the wish, and one to other. In a way, the soul of other brings you to where she is, because there is more communication in the line. You don't go there and find out, oh, sorry, she's not there. I went wrong. But before you take the flight, the soul of the way you communicate, the way you understand is, I don't have time to see you. Come tomorrow. You don't take a flight because the soul have already agreed on a time, position, and a place. You want to travel to the North Pole of the moon, you still have a magnetic field connection. One of these lines is already connected. The transportation and transmutation of the future is understanding the flow of the magnetic field. If you go back to the teachings of the past, I've mentioned quite a few times the human scientist, the knowledgeable scientists of this planet up to now have not managed to measure the field strength, individual field strength of a magnet, which is static. When it comes to the plasma of the soul, when it comes to the plasma of the soul of 2 people or in a various dimension of the universe, these things are not this shape. These things are in motion, and some are connected. And at the same time, your soul is not a solid magnet sitting there, it's a dynamic plasma. So you are in the same dilemma too. Understanding this new process will be taught in coming time to what we call the pilots of the flight system. To understanding through the knowledge of the soul, not in the classroom. These new flight system, which is now part of what we call the structure of the systems which are built in what we call research labs, and now is getting exported to the places where these units come. You receive the what we call the unit as a flight unit, but then you have to be able to put the match to it, that it works, is set to work with the flight system. It worked to be able to translate the language of what I call the soul, the understanding of the communication in a dynamic state. When you look at this picture, you see it already sits in the structure. When we don't supply this unit with a flight system, you have a health unit, you have a production unit. By adding this system into the structure of the flight system or enhancement unit, we convert the enhancement unit from a health unit, a wellness unit, into a flight system. And this is one of the two apparatuses which is needed to be added to the flight system. Otherwise, you still have the old system of the enhancement unit, which is for the flight, for the health, for wellness centers, for production of what we call a system which we run. At birth, as you can see, these units are all the same. What we build inside it, it changes the system. It becomes a wellness unit if you have a cancer. If the system is built to be for producing food for people to go in the cabin, it becomes a food station. If we decide to become a flight system, you've seen the control system and the flight system added. If you want to be just for psychosomatic to enhance the soul, that the physicality doesn't suffer all sorts of problems, it can be done. So you will see this feature probably in most of the places where you deal with the process of the Keshe Foundation. Where in these systems we will decide what line is connected to where. What we allow to enter within the cabin, what we the fields we keep away from the cabin. The flight system control and protection is totally different than what you use the same system for wellness or for material production. We can tune the system to a specific magnetic field which you see in the magnet, solid magnet, that only connects to the strength field of a specific plasma, of a specific material. You might call it an isotope, or we can mix it in a way that you can make alloys in the condition of the ganses. Up to now, what we have seen, you made the ganses. You dried the ganses. You have it as a solid matter. But how many of you have managed to convert that dry copper oxide to copper? There is a piece of information which is not taught. You can't stack powders of what we call copper GaNs, once you produce it, into copper wires and building a structure or whatever you might need at the time, place, and position. How do you convert this? Some places, flexible structures, which is unknown to man. At the moment, you put your buildings and some springs and some rollers and some magnets that if it comes the earthquake, it can shake and vibrate to absorb the energy. What about building structures, which is like the body of the man on earth? You have what we call the beam structure, like the bone, and then the flexibility of the movement, where the movement interacts with the life of individuals in each cabin, gives the preference of the pleasure of living. You have not managed to convert the ganses into ganses of life. Up to now, your knowledge has been to bring the technology, changing the matter for the first time to energy, where now we need to teach you how to convert these energies, these gases, into the matter state. Otherwise, you have a bunch of powders, a bunch of gases, a bunch of energies. The conversion process is as important what we learn up to now in producing that conversion from matter state to energy. Now we need to learn the energy to the matter state. I can transport you in the matter of the energy of the soul to another position, but how can I create a condition by the interaction of environment that you manifest yourself on earth again as you in another position and dimension? It's no one's going to turn around to see Azar where she cannot see you, but you're there as an energy. And even as energy cannot recognize your physicality because I don't know who you are. Or my soul knows, but physically I cannot confirm. This is what we actually do in the matter state, the material production unit, which up to now we have not covered. You just know there is a material unit producing whatever you need. But don't forget, you have ganses and nothing else. There is a technique, there is a knowledge to change energy to matter state. And up to now, none of you knowledge seekers have even thought about doing this. I have ganses. How am I going to change it to matter state? What do I need to create that conversion? The material I produce is slightly not the color I want. I want it slightly darker, slightly lighter. You don't have a dye in space to change it. You have to change it with the strength of the field and emotion of your soul, or the soul of the material satisfies your soul need. When you have the production unit for the materials and you keep on producing energies, but you cannot convert it, where are you going to go? It becomes the position, what I explained to you, the dilemma which is sitting with us in Linz. We have a system active, going nowhere because it has no preset destination. And all it does, it absorbs interaction fields. And what it's doing is what I call it fattening itself. It's storing field dimension. It is creating, in a way, the condition of what we see in our systems. When you look at a composition like this, you want to sell the factory, you walk into a factory condition, you want to have the dimension of a wood, you want to have the dimension of the floor, you want to have the dimension of lighting. You want everything which is complete. You need composite systems which can give you all dimensions. We have this problem now in a physical dimension. It's no good building a structure on the moon where you have to import the materials from the earth and you cannot keep the composition of the wood as wood because in the moon, this composition of the wood will become plastic. I chose these pictures deliberately because you need to look. This is your kitchen. What food you want to make in it. What color would you like the kitchen be all the time? You like the kitchen to be blue, but your partner would like it black. And your child would like it to be green. And you all want to enjoy being in this place to share, most probably, even if you manage to create food on earth. But the pleasure of being together to share energy, what we call the condition. And at another point, you come from a factory. You have a composition of materials. You come from work. The work is on the other side of the moon, and you want to keep your wood. And in transportation of what you make with this wood from factory to home, you don't want it to change composition. When man starts to immigrating in a larger scale, everything has to be precise. We have to develop systems that can choose colors. I like the car to be yellow. You like to see the same car in white. Do we give you each one car, or do we satisfy the emotion of the soul? And we can take this car white from the office to the home and moon, and still your wife, like a pink car, she will see that's pink. We come back to what we call integrated plasma systems. In the Keshe Foundation, we are developing this technology. It's no good for you to go to the moon and everything will be gray and just a building. It's important once we get you there, you have the facility to create the condition of what is satisfactory to the soul of the man if you want to create the condition of point of reference. These are the technologies which will merge out of the Keshe Foundation in coming weeks and months. We gave you the condition to fly. You'll have the spaceships. But what happened if on the way from the what they call the work to the home, suddenly part of the soul wants to be somewhere else? Would you end up on the Mars? Or you'll find out, oh, I came to Mars, I actually wanted to be home with my wife. How do we build this new composite structure of the conversion? How do we come to understand? How do we transfer and at the same time collectively hold on to the structure? You don't want to have a house with 3 floors and suddenly become 2. Creation and conversion of the energies is part of the new teachings which will come up. in a way, is for you to decide, as we always said, to be in a feeding position, to be in a condition of creating materials, or you want to live in. But we don't have a separate compartments on that. We live, we create materials, materials are produced for us, and we eat and we help ourselves with the wellness, all in the same thing. We go to a herb, you pick up a herb, this is good for the headache. You go to the plant, this is good for food, energy, what I'm missing. We have no apple trees, and we have no mint herbs, and we have no what I call copper sources or a spinach to give the iron to your blood. But within the structure of the construction of this new flight system, everything has been built. Even the emotion. This is part of what we have already built in the flight enhancement systems. And this is the knowledge which scientists in your universities and in your government have to still to unravel for them, for themselves. It's not that we give you the enhancement unit, the flight system, and the material system, and leave you to do it. You have to become knowledgeable to the knowledge of creation. Your scientists have to come to understand this point. The difference between the enhancement units, which now comes as a flight unit, has an additional factor to it. The factor is your system here is for your physical body on Earth, for its operation and existence. In the enhancement unit, you have been the system set to become the passengers of the universe. There is a big gap of knowledge. Our people in the factory are producing things, but they don't understand what sits behind it and how things has been set to become not only food of the apple or the mint on Earth, it becomes the food supplier from depth of the universe, that you can survive in that place and position in the universe. And it's just your brain, when you arrive through your soul, to be able to live in that position. You don't jump in the furnace, and you don't jump in a frozen pool. This is the beauty with understanding the totality of the knowledge. Integrated systems, collective integrated systems. For example, as I explained to some of our manufacturing team and the developed research team, you have a farmer who grows wheat, grows maize, and the pigs. And you want to grow those and feed the pig at the same time. Keep the pig healthy, keep the plant away from diseases, and you cannot, with your present knowledge, you keep on spraying and watering and whatever with gases. The new change in technology is that we become that sun. We can feed the plant, we can feed the pig, we can look after the pests, and at the same time, we allow the cycle of life to be neutral and natural in the position, time, and space. It's time for knowledge seekers to move on to understand more. And the only way I can bring you, and we have set the scene for it, is the 5 cups and the cup of universe. The 5 cups is for the man. And now you have to put the 5 cups in the cup of universe for it to be able to survive in the depth of the universe, that being an included earth. Now you understand why we taught you separately and in a very time distant gap between the two. How do you feed? How do you look after the man in your 5 cups and his soul? And then you bring it into the dimension of the cup of universe. That this man can survive in any position predestined by the soul of the man and that point in the space in the soul of the universe. Now you understand how much we have prepared you to become the travelers of the universe. In simple steps, you made the 5 cups. In the simple steps, you made the cup of life. In the simple steps, you made the cup of the gravity. You made the cup of the soul. You made the cup of this and that. And this is good for you when you're here. Now you have to go back into the cup of universe. How do you feed man in a given time, place, and position in the universe? You remember in the teachings of the past, if you've been through it, what did I refer to? We set like schools, premises, systems on Earth that you go into and see if I go to planet Zeus, how I will live. How would I look? That's only can be done with a cup of universe. You create that condition, that position of the universe, and you put the man in it. Test run. Sandbox. Now you see how the two merges together. You were told to destroy your 5 cups because they wanted to be the prisoner of abuse on this planet. They gave you the cup of universe to bring you with the cup of life, cup of man, to become the passengers of the universe. The time of the slavery is over. Those of you who you destroyed your 5 cups, you made yourself a slave to the devil. You need that to be able to see your position, your time and the space, and the place in where you land, where you will be. If you understood this, if you understood the composition of the two, you are allergic to something, you put the cup of man, which is you in the dimension of you, made by you in the cup of earth, in the cup of the universe, and you satisfy the emotion of the soul, would you have those psychosomatics? No. Now you see the emergence of the knowledge and technology. We showed you the cup of life. Then we showed you the 5 cups. And you fully understood that. We showed you in a very brief time to open the discussion for you to understand the cup of universe. Did you ever ask yourself why this guy is teaching us about the cup of universe? Because at that time you couldn't see, put the cup of man, the cup of life in the cup of universe, and then you see the behavior of the man, you see the manifestation of the man, you see the understanding of the time and position in which part of the universe you want to be. And these can be produced in these enhancement units. Pre-run. How many of you in your lifetime you said, oh, when next time I am born, I would like to be a cat? Now you have the cup of universe and the cup of you. Create the condition of the emotion of a cat in your cup of universe. And then you see if you'd like to be a cat. The implication and application of this technology is so deep that some of you will never come to fully be educated to understand the totality. The process of the teaching, the process of understanding is now to bring the same position. You bring the cup of life. You bring the cup of man. And then we create the condition of the balance fields of the soul of the universe, and you walk into the system. You become elevated to the level of the balance fields of the universe. You never be superior, you never be inferior. And this is what I said, when we take man to space, man will be the same as the others. You thought you gathered the whole knowledge, you'll be given everything. No, you are again physical. We gave you the condition of the soul. The soul of the man, when becomes a passenger of the universe, will be equal to the knowledge, to the strength of the soul of the rest. Then he decides what condition of physicality he takes at which position and time. But there is one thing to it. I made man in the image of myself. So when you go into this dimension of the elevation of the soul of the man, that is equal to the rest, not with the physicality, then won't you become the image of the Creator? This is the technology. This is the universal knowledge, not for you to make ganses and patches. But, as I said before, we had to take you through the education of the nursery and the class 1 and how to write and how to read. And many of you have not gathered the knowledge to read the hidden words within my teachings. In so many ways, you can create the condition of desert in the middle of North Pole, if you understood the interaction of the fields. And then you show the desert sand to the man in the North Pole, and you will see the laughter on the face of an Eskimo, that he could never imagined such a thing exists because the only thing he knows under his feet is mainly ice. This is what the technology has brought us to. Then, how do we understand this? It goes back to all the time, and I keep on emphasizing till some of you and gradually most of you understand. Don't look at the structure of the cup of man. Look at the field interaction of the cup of man. Last night, I was at dinner with one of our knowledge seekers. And it was explained the same setup was set, but different colors and materials is shown. But the sets are set one below the other. I said, you haven't understood. Everything is the same in the boxes, but the fields are not. You're dealing with plasma. You're dealing with energy flow. One box is blue, one box is white, and one box is red, but everything is exactly the same in each box. Move away from physical look and start understanding the interaction of the field. Then you start understanding the interaction of the fields in the boxes. You go to the top, you become blue, and you go to the bottom, you become white, and you go to the middle, you become red. But in essence, it's all the same. It's you who changes its manifestation in the time and the presence of the field. Because these cups, these systems, were not set for the matter state, it was set for the solar state. So the soul have respected each other in the field energy transfer. Many of you will not understand this whatsoever. But those of you who have moved to the more advanced levels of understanding the technology know exactly what I'm talking about. We create the condition of universe. We create the condition of understanding the knowledge of creation. And as long as you are entangled in the field strength of the matter state, you'll have the same dilemma. As I said before, you cannot live, you cannot connect, you cannot keep the life of the cup of man if you do not understand the field radiation. That the fields interacts and connects, divides, enhances. And once you manage to grasp this idea and understanding, you will see in a very simple way, which will be shock to many of you, something is strange. Very strange. But as I said, in time you'll come to understand. When you have your cup of man set up, and now you have made gases, and then you learn to create the condition of the fields, radiation field, which is the mono-energetic fields of the universe. In these systems, as you made the cup, you will see the shimmers of your own image. If you get one field radiation wrong, sorry, you will not see the center part, but still exists. If you understand this, then you understand what I've been telling you, that when you come to Linz in the exhibition center, we put the machine here and we put the machine there and we transfer you across. In the knowledge of the man, the technology is complete. It's for you to understand and interpret and develop. Then when you put this man in the environment of the cup of universe, in a position of planet Zeus, what shall you see? How you will shape on planet Zeus. But as we kept the soul the same within the structure is the soul of the man. The same emotion, the same information, and everything else that it carries on planet. Now you understand the teachings of the cup of life, the teaching of the cup of man, the teaching of the cup of universe. It's you by creating the field strength of a appropriate place, you can see how your soul will react and how it will manifest itself in that position, time and place. I used to play a game with my boy when he was very young. And I used to tell him I play magic. And I used to tell him, I can't see you. And he used to jump up and down in the house, in the room, says, Papa, I'm here, I'm here. I said, I can hear you, but I can't see you. He used to jump everywhere. Papa, I'm here, I'm here. And he believed that I cannot see him. But he could hear me. He did all monkey games to be confirmed that he exists. But he's there. This will be you learning in Tehran. Others are there, but they cannot see you because you didn't get the right field of strength to manifest yourself as a man who moved from London to Tehran for her to recognize. Is understanding the knowledge, understanding the truth, understanding the position and time. This is what we're moving into as part of, as I said in the last week's teachings, part of the communication, transportation and transmutation. You create, you elevate the soul. How do you transmute it? And then how you manifest it after transmutation in the dimension of the point of observation. It's no good becoming a man and appearing in Tehran in the kidney of Azar instead of in front of Azar because bloop, you got the dress wrong slightly. She might feel your soul, but there's no way you can manifest yourself as a man in a kidney, in the size of the man. And mankind will make many mistakes. Not only mankind, the citizens of the universe, now they know the knowledge. Till they get it right. You have to go back. You have to understand totality of the knowledge. When I gave you this, I gave you something before. Go back. For nearly 7 years now, we taught you the macro system. And we told you, if you look at it, there is no difference between the magnetic system and your solid magnet. The solid magnet is created by the earth, put together by man or cut as a piece, and you have it. In the magnetic system, you have the ability to decide the strength. If you put two magnets opposite to each other by rotation of the fuel, and you create electric energy, all of you lot have been playing the wrong games, haven't you? The power station has been sitting in front of you. What megawatt you want to get out of it? I gave you the same magnet. Your magnet is solid state. This magnet is plasmatic state. Now you see your generator. You looked for the crumbs, and I gave you the full cake. But this is in a solid state. It creates your energy and electricity in a solid state. You put them in dimension and direction. Now, my dear friends, knowledge seekers, let me open your eyes to what you have had in your hands for a long time. We gave you the magnetic system to test, and you looked for little thing what comes out of it. But the purpose was this. We gave you the cup of universe. And we gave you the cup of man. In the kitchen, you put the pot on the fire, and within it, you cook what you like. I gave you the cup of energy. I gave you the pot. What would you like this man to be in the pot? Now you understand. We told you clearly for a long time that you're missing, you're not connecting the knowledge. Don't go tomorrow, get a magrav and you put a pot on it and then put something else on it. Then you're back in the same position as you are today. After 7 years, we gave you the magrav system. Understand the field flow, understand the interaction of the fields. And then you will see you have one of the most powerful generators in the universe. You understand how we have brought you in the knowledge to become equal in the knowledge to the soul of the universe. You say, you're hitting the water and the meat. I'm extending the strength of the soul of the those who were what we call the agents of devil told you to destroy this. And many of you thought it was correct. Now you can see how much you deprive yourself from the knowledge of the universe. What we've seen is for freeing man in a dimension of the soul, not slaving man in a dimension of the physicality that it can be abused physically and the rest. Those who told you to destroy your cup of lives, cup of man, are pedophiles with a long history, and by keeping your children will bring you to that point of abuse, the children of the man. Those who follow them are of the same school. We gave you the freedom of the man through the soul of the man. And the knowledge is set step by step on a solid ground. You had time to test. It wasn't from this week to next week and the other week. We told you about the CO2 cup, the first energies, 15 years ago. Then we took time. We showed you the cup of life. We showed you nothing was gifted to the man than what you call the coronavirus pandemic. We start introducing fields, interaction of the fields. And then you start learning about the interaction, creation of the cup of life. Then the cup of universe. And then still there is other levels of the teaching which is still to come. Understanding of the totality is part of the game. Man has to become used to the game of understanding of the interaction of the fields, not the matters. If you understand how to play with the fields, then you can make any matter. As I always say, today's teaching brings you to a new dimension of understanding. And this is the purpose of this. Because many of you have to become the passengers of these new crafts. You have to know what you're walking into. You have to understand the knowledge that in a space, by understanding it, you can live a beautiful life. Not to be a slave instead of the suit of the monkey as we see with NASA, into the environment of one enhancement unit. We just changed the prison size from clothing to a box. This is the beauty of teaching this way, to bringing the change. But by more and more people to understand, more souls to understand, more educate not just the man, but the soul of the citizens of the universe. Now you fully comprehend those of you who are at that level, what is said, what is planned for the coming teachings. How do we convert these fields to a universal field, to the field of the physicality of the man, or the field of the soul? I gave you the most beautiful system in the maglev systems. If you understand it, you already had the system to fly. Go back to the recordings and teachings when we have John in Arizona, walking between the fields, not walking over the fields. And sometimes, if you remember, when he walked amongst the maglev unit, he says, I can feel. Yes, you could feel, but my dearest friend, you should have done this walk. The way the systems were set were perfect, but the knowledge wasn't there what to do. Stop looking into maglevs. Start looking in the fields of maglevs. And the beauty of it is that you cannot make two systems exactly the same. So when you have a collection, you have a collection of the fields of the universe, the same as before, interacting at the time, place, and position. Always say, if you understand it. When you play lotto, you have 49 numbers, and you have to choose 7. To get out of this 49, to be able to match the 7 which is announced. Around about 18 million combination. If you buy 18 million lottery tickets covering all the number combination, you will definitely win the jackpot. Some systems gives it 14 million, but 18 million correct combination, which gives you roughly it is, because you cover some which are not in the background, you'll win the jackpot. Understanding this and understanding now this plus all the fields of the universe to get the jackpot to land on the same place with every cell in a position, you choose the number of zeros here. But because you have the soul connection with Azar, the number is fixed. You already hit the jackpot. Try to understand the knowledge. Try to understand the beauty of the knowledge. You're happy with 40% energy saving on your house, living in the dimension of physicality. But if you know how to tap to this, I give you enough energy to supply the whole city from your house. And with it, you receive energy and the feel the strength of the soul of the man, that you can elevate your soul to any dimension in the universe. But the beauty of it is, if one day the mankind learns how to make the right maghrab, that elevates the soul of the man, then the man will reach the position of the strength of the Creator. Humanity has a long way to go to create this, because it's still trying to get the 5 megawatts and 10 kilowatts. When you look inside the shape of your maghrabs, if you haven't noticed up to now, I have given the dimension of interaction of the soul of the Creator. It's you who has to find it. It's you who has to understand not to make the rings with the dimension of physicality, but make the rings in the dimension of the soul of the universe. And I've taught you how to make the cup of universe. I've shown you the path to the Creator. It's you who has to unravel it, to understand it, to be able to get that path. I have shown you the way to the Creator. I gave you the biggest gift, which was maghrab system. And I cried many nights, when would mankind understand? You were looking to elevate your soul. I gave you a system understanding of technology, which gave you to cover you, then becoming the man of universe and universe, to become closer to the Creator, to become directly part of the Creator. But unfortunately, mankind is still after 30% reduction in the electricity bill. In no place, in nowhere land of the universe. One day, those who listen to these teachings of today would understand. And that day is the day of Mehdi, which is today that many of your souls have been elevated to it to understand. Is your physicality which has to accept the knowledge and to live within it. Try to comprehend. Do not try to copy. And if you look in the brain of the man, structure of the brain of the man, the same generator exists. And if you understand how to work it, you can create a field that it reaches the dimension of the soul of the Creator. You don't need a maghrab, because the maghrab system is based on the structure of your physical life in your physicality. This is your reproduction unit. This is your intestine and heart. And this is the dimension of the soul of physicality, the position of the soul of the man. Your 3-stacker is already set. It's you who have to understand, would you like to put your finger in the socket and feed the energy to the house that you have the light, or you feed the soul and you see the light of the Creator. And man has denied himself that beauty by choice. As I said once, many times, the knowledge is we come here to live, to taste the pleasures and the pains of the man, to understand what has kept man away, to understand his own creation, his own Creator within him. And we have to taste it and to enjoy the beauty of it, to understand how we can attract the man to the beauty. Now you understand part of the teaching. Now you understand where you missed the knowledge. And I bet you tomorrow and the months to come, we're still seeing people trying to make magnet systems to reduce electric bill by 30% because now the energy is doubled. The energy of the universe and the Creator is free and in terabytes of energy, not in 1 or 1 kilowatt. I hope you understood the teaching of today. And I hope Jalal's team, the hidden Maghreb units, as they can heat. Or you can still work with the Maghreb systems to reduce electricity. Thank you very much for today's teaching. And I hope I opened the door in a broader way for you to understand the teaching of the past. In a way, bringing the parts together partially for you to understand more why you've been taught all these things. Where we are going, where we are heading, and what knowledge you need to carry to become the passengers of the universe. They become passengers through your soul, not through a crowd. That's your choice. Choose the donkey or the jet. And mankind at the moment is still walking on the legs from what we see. Has not managed to find the donkey, let alone the jet. Thank you very much for today. We go through a commercial break and we come back.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Yes, we'll be back in a few minutes. I'll show some of the flight enhancement spaceship unit videos. Okay, thank you very much. We'll be back in a few minutes.
The new Vertical Enhancement Spaceship Unit. A plasma space technology to prepare humanity for transportation and transmutation in deep space. Essential processes are embedded to prevent mutations and psychosomatic conditions during deep space travel. This new system is designed to support upper body conditions, especially of the lungs and intestines, and can be targeted specifically for each organ. When inside the Vertical Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the body experiences balance in totality, enabling it to correct and rebalance all the fields within itself. The new Vertical Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a dimension in health and transportation never seen before. The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
Okay, we're back again at the 426th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, March 31st, 2022. Mr. Keshe, how would you like to proceed? Would you like to take questions and are you there? Maybe he needs a few.
Yes.
Okay.
So no, it's just I was touching the wrong button. It's like you having a couple of the screens causes problems. There is something I want to show you before we go, and you just seen it. You literally past few minutes, which confirms the teaching of this morning. I referred to it in another teaching, but now maybe it has different meaning. This is what you just saw in the advertising of vertical enhancement. And you see, where is the magnet unit? You see it because it's set to do that job. There it is. The teaching is in line with mass production because the teaching has always covered commercialization for people, more people to use it, to become aware of it, and to be able to understand it. In a way, we kept everything in line. The pot he was looking for sits at the bottom. Even when we look at what we call horizontal units, there's no difference. When you see the horizontal unit, the same process has been set with no difference. You see the units there. There is one here, and there is one here. In different shape or form. So we're not teaching you something that it just jumped out of the box. These systems are manufactured over a year ago. It's just bringing your knowledge to understand it, to the point of understanding that some of you, one of you might have seen it. No more powerful plasma technology has been taught than the maglev systems. And I said, when I was walking in the teaching hall in Trani, actually in Barletta, and when I saw that to a Spanish couple, the guy was pushing with eyes to get the thing moving, and with the maglev unit, I said the human race is not ready. You're a bit too fast, too early. The knowledge of understanding, as I said, is exactly like a toy shop when you go to buy a toy. You see on the side of the box big numbers: 3, 8, 6, 12, 16. Which means if you buy the one which is with the 3 and you have a child of 1 or even 2 or even 2.5, cannot play with a toy because the knowledge, the motoric, the coordination has not reached to be able to put a 3-year-old toy together. A lot of parents love to give a helicopter flying and everything written on the size 14 to the birthday of the 2nd year or 3rd year to their son, that I bought them such a good thing. But the child has to wait 10 years to gather the knowledge to be able to fly. But the question is, did the father buy the toy for himself? But trying to be happy that the child has got it in his name. The knowledge is the same as an understanding level. When you reach the point of understanding, you can play with the toy. The brain, the soul, the knowledge does not fit the soul of the physicality that it can play with the soul of the universe. But has no age gap. It's the maturity of understanding the knowledge of the creation. And it's you who decides that point, that knowledge to be absorbed, that knowledge to be understood, and in which way understood. The way he thought or the way suits me. We thought the maglev for universal system, becoming child of the universe, and he chose a maglev to be plugged in and get you a 30 volt. We even built factories for it to make toys for infants day round. But the problem is, the child is a newborn, has not even become an infant to be able to use what is made. Now we understand, and you can see. And if you look, the systems are standing next to each other. And if you look, the mother sits in the back. And as I said, when you look at it, I was joyfully enjoying the commercial. And I thought, what can I say? If you look at it, in reality, I gave you the source. And in truth, and I gave you the pot. You have the source and you have the pot. Bring me the soul of the man. The rest is easy. Would you like to go to any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. And as usual,
Can I add something? Let's go back to something. I compared this to one of the, what I call, world leaders, some of those who make decisions for many of our lives. When you look at this enhancement unit, it's no different than what you see in real life. And there is no better way I can explain it than this. When you look at this unit, I can parallel it with what you as humans understand. This time of the year in Northern Hemisphere, we buy what I used to buy when I was a young boy, very small black seeds. We didn't know if it is real or not, or they sold us what we call a black seed, which you get vegetation from. And we used to get this black seed. We used to look for it. It's a tradition in the Iranian culture and the whole of Silk Road. And we get the leaf of the white berry, and we put this black seed on the leaf. And we watch it every day. Came back from the school. Mama is still black. Mama is not changed. And Mama sometimes says, you see, I told you, the guy gave you black seed. And then after a few days, because we created the magnetic field interaction of that leaf with a seed, we created new dimension of field. This seed used to start moving. And it became a tiny little worm. And then it started eating the leaf. And then it grew. We were waiting. When they start growing, the anxious time, keeping them in the shoe box to start. Every day you open the box. Mama, is still a worm. Just leave it there. Don't touch it. Change the leaves. Keep the environment the same. And then, after a few days, this gorgeous worm wiggling, start putting a silk line out, making a cocoon. But from inside, it uses, to my understanding as a child, his tail as a point of reference and starts silking around it. And then suddenly, the worm, gradually you see the shadow of it, and then you see the cocoon. And we wait anxiously. What is going to be? When is going to be the time when we see the freedom and the butterfly flies? And then, because it's in the box, we catch the butterfly. For a few seconds it's ours, and the butterfly flies, becomes free. This machine is that machine. We already made you the cocoon. You bring the physicality of the man inside. We nourish it through the knowledge of the Creator, and we get the freedom of the soul, the butterfly. There is no difference in the point of mutation and conversion. It's understanding the knowledge of the freedom of the soul of the. Many times when I look at this system, I say, I wonder which butterflies and what color butterflies will come out of this system when they go in as a one, as a man, as a dimension of physicality, to take the flight of fancy, to become a new, to seed a new black seed. Next year, I'll have another one. And sometimes we used to keep these butterflies till they lay the egg, and then they used to die. But the soul of the man does not reach that point of death. They become part of the other. We have given you the cocoon. You have to make that butterfly to fly. This is the beauty of the knowledge if you understand it. And this is where we lack in most of the knowledge seekers, this knowledge. And it's a time for change. We have laid the leaf, we have put the seed in, we have seen the worm cycle of life of man for thousands of years, and now we have built you the cocoon. It's you to understand it, and in the future, man will make that silk cocoon from the soul of itself to allow the soul of physicality become embedded within the soul of the man and to take the flight of fancy. But the beauty with this is, if you understand it, you can take any flight of fancy anytime that you wish. And then you can lay your eggs anywhere in the universe as a new cycle of life. Any questions?
Okay, I'll remind our attendees they can raise their virtual hands in order to ask a question. We can open the microphone for you then. We do have a hand up with Salamia to begin with. So perhaps we'll start there. Hello, Salamia. Can you open your mic there?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Keshe, I would like to ask you something regarding the shield of protection. I know you teach entire community about this aspect, but in the future, if you like to go back and refresh our memory, will be very nice and useful, if you like. Romanian community just asked me to ask you. That's why I had the today the courage to ask you.
I know why the Romanian community is asking you this question. You are having a threat sitting on your northern borders with Ukraine. And you have a fear of nuclear explosion or chemical attack within the boundaries of Ukraine, or which might expel over you, or you become the victims of it. The shield of protection is, again, man's way of dealing with it. Try to raise the soul of the world leaders that we do not reach that point. Because if we get to that elevation, then for centuries our children would not suffer with contamination. If we just create a shield for ourselves, it's a selfishness that we are protected. But I understand both reasons and both conditions. We blamed the Russians for a lot, what they've done, what they're doing. In principle, we understand it, and a lot of it is wrong. But on the other hand, we understand their position to protect the integrity of their culture and their religion. Up to now, we were always considered the West as a saint. But now we know with the documents available, especially in the past few days, coming out of what we see from the IEA papers in the background, and some other organizations, the American government and the scientists have been building naughty things within Ukraine and financing these kind of things. And it goes back some of it to the leaders of the West. And we have to enlighten them not to make these things in the future that leads to these conditions. We are not pro-Americans or pro-Russians or pro-anything, but when your house gets attacked, when the house is on fire, you do something about it. And now we have enough knowledge and information to know in a very small way, but could be crucial or fundamental. And it came very much into front in the negotiations in Istanbul in the past few days, that when the two cannot trust, let's make a no man's land a free zone. And this is part of the condition that nobody can create nuclear or biochemical factories in Ukraine. And it becomes a neutral position. And in essence, there is a possibility of both nuclear and biochemical. But if we see biochemical, I have a very good idea. If we see nuclear, I have a very good idea who will do it. And for sure, it's not Russians. 100% sure it will not be Russians. Because we saw the same game by the Western world in Iraq. We saw the same game in Libya. So there's a bad reference there. And there is a cause was concern from all leaders to stop playing these games in the background. And the documents which are opening up and appearing gives a lot of not a good indication, especially to the United States, what I call games in these areas. Can you please close your microphone? In that position, to that effect, try to raise the soul of the world leaders, that they come to understanding and this thing can be resolved, both in Vatican, in Moscow churches, and now that it's got out of hand in the White House and in the Kremlin. We know families of Romanians within 2 kilometers of the Ukrainian border. We are in touch with. We know the concern. We are closely in touch with Northern Romanian community to watch any operation on a daily basis. In so many ways, if it happens, which might happen with we see mainly to come from the west and the east side of the border, always have a combination of the 3 gases in principle with you. Try to keep the CH3 out of the position. Make your gases in a deep condition of the gas and not the water. Try to use it outside the building than inside the building. Hold the radiation and hold the, what we call any chemical effect into the wall outside and inside. We can spray the buildings. Try to create and use as much amino acid into the water you use, that anything which is in balance with the human level is absorbed and kept outside. And if you come to it, that is used, try to not to touch these areas for 3 to 6 months or maybe up to a year, because they absorb the energies, and usually summertime heat will disperse some of it, but the winter ice will change the composition of the release. What you absorb as a massive energy will be released next 6 to 12 months. Try to, in a way you are used to in most of the places, to whitewash. Do not use these things on your clothing under no circumstances. If you are in a vehicle, you travel, try to wash your car with it, but try to avoid the outside of the car if you receive contamination. I always, when I was a student in Queen Mary College, my professors at the beginning had a big objection the way I used to share knowledge with this about nuclear contamination. And I always said, when you see the light of a nuclear explosion, walk into it. Don't walk away from it. If you see it, you have already received it. It will be a lifetime of misery. This is what I know from the nuclear industry. If you see the light of explosion, walk to it. If it's too far from you, you hear or you get, you can control the way I explained. Because when you see the light, the fields of the radiation has already passed through your body. And the mutation of the fields has already started. But if you are near a chemical or biological effect, it's just biology. biological warfare. Biology needs amino acid. And there is a limitation of how much is in the air. If it's in your direction, if it's not absorbed, it'll come through the building, it'll come through the house. You hold it outside the house. You hold it outside the car. We are not all sitting in the house waiting for it. We are traveling, we are shopping, we are going from place to place. You need the three combination of the copper, the zinc, and the CO2 with a huge amount of amino acid. If you have cup 1 life with this amino acid, mix into it. If you have a cup life 2 with it, mix into it. And make sure you have plenty of amino acid. This should attract what is, your body is another biological body walking. When others have absorbed it, it's less to come to you. If you inhale or you breathe it, you're already contaminated. Follow the same procedure, but 0.9% salt. That it matches the salt of the body of the man, and it can take it out of the body. Just be patient. Do not expect I drank it, it should change. It'll change gradually. It'll take it out of the body gradually. Never. It's a difference between the virus and the biological. Virus is energy, biological is part of your body, it's the biology of your body. You handle it totally differently. In a way, you put so many traps in front of it that it does not get to you by the time, or you don't get the strength of it, which is interacting with the cell of the body. With the nuclear accident, it is the same. You have to cover yourself with the same process. Use a lot of gallons of CO2 with amino acid, because you have to.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. We lost the audio there, I believe. Or at least I did. Okay. Bear with us. We appear to have temporarily lost the connection with Mr. Keshe. I'm sure he'll be back shortly.
We receive in Romania iodine from doctors in case they prepare it. This for every citizen. And we have to go to the doctor to take it, but this is not only for radioactive iod, not for cesium and other type of radioactivity. This is a problem, so we need Mr. Keshe.
Yeah, I was going to try to introduce your question there in the Q&A to him, because it's appropriate now with the question about whether the use of that non-radioactive iodine to replace in the thyroid gland, is that a good idea, or is there a better way to do it, or do you use that in combination with other treatments and remedies, or how does that work? So that's about the only treatment I've heard of that the government gives out to people. They do that in Canada, where people live close to a nuclear reactor. They'll give out the iodine kits for the pills for people. Just in case. But as you mentioned in your Q&A question here, the medicine does not protect against other radioactive elements such as cesium-134 or cesium-137. Hence your request to please teach us about the KF protection shield. Suppose there might also be a question about the use of masks during a radioactive event, because if you have a mask, it would block some of the particles that might have radioactive elements attached to the particles. On the other hand, then you'd have a mask full of radioactive particles that the whole mask is then radioactive. So at some point you would want to get rid of the mask because it would be doing more harm than good. Perhaps similar to some of the other things we've been under with the mask restrictions in a way. Well, we still don't hear from Mr. Keshe here. He must be having a little trouble getting connected. So bear with us here.
I hope he'll be back. We know that this conflict, it's all about New World Order also, because China, India will be the new hegemonical powers in the future. And Russia now is a friend with China, and because Western powers refuse to work together. Mr. Putin just asked to be part of NATO, but he was refused. So yeah, it's better to be together, all the planet, to have a world federation, like a international state, but a federation. Yeah.
I was pondering the idea that what if every single nation in the world had to be part of NATO, and that if any nation tried to have a war with any other nation, that would mean by their definition, all the other nations would have to gang up on that one country that was trying to cause a war.
Yes, you are right. We are talking about the concept of collective security. NATO has now a concept of collective defense. But
yes,
United Nations has this concept which we are talking about, that all parts are included in this system of collective security. And if one is not complying with the rules, all will be against. Now NATO is a regional.
But what if we had it so that if anyone used any weapon against any other country, like period, that would be the rule, then instantly they would have all other countries would have to join in in order to
Yes.
stop that threat. So
Yes.
it would make it so it wouldn't be worthwhile to have an army in a way, because all the other countries would be against you and would take you down so fast it would be ridiculous to even try.
Yeah.
Because now, if all the countries had an off button to the other countries, so that any country invaded, they would push the off button for that country, and the countries wouldn't try to invade or harm another country in that way, because it wouldn't pay off. They would lose the privilege of doing so. But I don't think we've quite gone to that point yet, but it seems like we're on the edge of some major changes in the structures of the leadership on the planet. So I think the next few weeks here will show some huge changes, way more than we can imagine.
You know that maybe it was a Russian, or I don't know, origin, a gentleman who proposed cooperative security, not collective security, cooperative security to be the new concept of NATO. And to include in this cooperative security, collective security, collective defense, and partnership. So to have an international structure of security and all states to be involved, as you said. I hope that the history will do like this. It's necessary.
Can I come in? Sorry about that. I do apologize. I had to leave, and it was an very important call for the foundation, and it's part of what we call the peace talks. We cannot refuse these calls or put them on hold. They have to be acted upon immediately. As you were trying to say, this situation exists if we stop the wars, if we create a condition of the destruction of the borders by delivery of the enhancement units, flight units, when we can travel anywhere, anytime. These stupid, what I call race of domination between the nations and making enemy of the others will stop. We've seen it it's not Ukraine, you just explained, neutral position. We saw it in past week. When I was a child, Tehran was the only airport in the whole of Middle East, in the Arab nation, where an Israeli airline used to land. If you're a Jew, you came from Russia, you come to Tehran, and then you get a flight to immigrate to Israel. We lost that point because of what I call dogmatism and everything else which came. But the strangest thing is, the Arab state gathered in the state of Israel, in a way, part of the old Egypt, in a meeting a few days ago. This was unheard of, because they made another enemy, which is the state of Iran, to bring them for us to be able to sell them more, to make. Why couldn't Iran be part of the same table? What has changed? This separation, creation of division, and these things are fed by Rothschild family. We've seen Soros now is on the international warrant arrest for starting the Ukrainian, promoting the Ukrainian war. It's not just Russia who has issued the warrant for the arrest of Soros. Chinese have done the same, because they've seen him. He interfered first with China. Now they found the source. And he works through Illuminatis and the Vatican. Cyrus cannot move anywhere anymore. It's a warrant, and if they capture him, even on flight, he'll spend years in Siberia and in the prisons in China. We create the new technology to create the condition of no borders, sharing of the technology, and being able to work together. And this will stop this position, what we've seen in Ukraine. And it's literally the job of knowledge seekers, support of the soul of the world leaders by the Universal Council and the rest of the knowledge seekers, and the knowledgeable knowledge seekers to bring the technology forward, to be able to be shared by everyone, that we don't create borders. The borders has to be the atmosphere of the universe, where it still is not a border, it's part of another part of another life. And negotiating to make Ukraine neutral, negotiating to get some people on our side that we can do more, has to finish. This is what I said to John last night. Do you want me to send you the enhancement unit and then you send them to NASA and then they work with you? Or do you want me to send them directly to NASA? Because we are about to ship. That it brings a connection. We give a box to NASA. Their box is empty. We give the unit to Arizona. Our box is full. The reactors are getting made. And the beauty of it is, I said to people in the factory, build units that we can give to NASA too, but let them feel the change in the knowledge. If it's given to them, it becomes another race, another point of race. But let them see it. What can we do? We have an empty box. Go back, as I said many times, to the story of 1950s, when the Americans sent an empty matchbox to Russia, and they waited for it. And then the Russians sent the matchbox back, and the American scientists told the Russians, you didn't see there was a, what we call now nanowires, very thin wire was in the matchbox. The Russian scientists answered, my friends, look through the wire. We have made a hole in it. It became a pipe. The race should be amongst the scientists and the knowledge, not borders. And what it was, something very big, maybe 50 years ago, making nanowires, now it's a common knowledge because we shared it. We didn't make borders for it. And trying to get Ukraine neutralized and other satellite countries will not work. When will be the next nation? When would be the next territory? When would it be the next planet? The man wants to share. Americans have half of the planet, we have the other half. The universal community would not allow it. So look at it two ways. Try to teach. It's the responsibility of the Universal Council to become that soul that shines upon all, that brings all our world leaders to one point. Bring all of our systems to one point. And we will see the whole structure moving up. And we don't need to worry about if it's going to be a nuclear, if it's going to be a chemical war. The biggest war we have sitting between the churches of Vatican and the Catholic Church. The Russian Church, Orthodox Church. If the Russian Orthodox Church asks Putin to pull out today, they will be out today. That decision has not been made. These are soldiers of the, what we call mercenaries of the religion, under the banner of nationalism. Pray with the soul of the leaders that we don't need to negotiate what's going to happen to other satellites, countries next to all the Baltic nations, which are still part of the Russian what we call USSR. And they were hoping if one child jumps, we let him jump and see what happened to it, and the rest of us will go to NATO. It will not happen. Ukraine had the military power to battle a little bit and got a lot of support from Americans and the others. They'll wipe them out. They become part of the Russian territory within 24 hours. It's a bigger game, but primarily, if you are in that border, we are keeping a very close touch with the Romanian community at the borderline in northern territory of Romania. We are keeping a very close touch. We haven't left you alone, and we'll support you. But it is there. Try to make as much gases as you can in a case. And even now, if you put the gases outside, in a way, you might not receive some of the smells you smell nowadays, but in 24 months or 12 months will go away. But if there is anything, you're already protected. Zinc is needed for neural system. Copper is needed for your muscle tissues. CO2 is needed for connection of lines. Mixed with amino acid, it takes it first than you do. If you have a little bit of worries, mix some calcium with this amino acid that you stop any residue into the bone structure if you have injuries, physical injuries. That's all you need to do. When it comes to the nuclear level, do the same. But as we've done before, with a nuclear attack, try to keep in hand plenty of H3 and CH3. That's a different technique, that's a different approach. And you can literally convert, absorb, you mix it again with the same mixture. That is on the strength of the amino acid of the man.
Mr. Keshe, what about the use of the potassium iodide pills? Is that useful?
It has never worked. It's just a psychological game played. We came to this conclusion years ago in nuclear industry. If you lived around SEK in Belgium, a nuclear power plant, they have been given these tablets for years. You have to have it. It's not known public, but because I used to collaborate with SEK and WITO, which is the Belgian nuclear side, all the people who live within a certain radius from SEK have been given the iodine tablets, and they have to use it. And it doesn't really work. You get more, if you look at it, out of the, what do you call it, walnut. Buy a dry walnut and soak it in the cold water. Leave it for a day. It becomes brownish color. This carries more natural iodine than you get in these tablets. And then you use it, you mix it with the CO2 and amino acid of CO2. And you can, it's digestible. If there is anything, it washes out of your body. This is the best source of iodine. And actually, I threw about a liter of it away yesterday. You just buy walnuts, dry walnuts, or now if you can find the fresh ones, and just soak them for 24 hours. Add a CO2 and the amino acid of CO2. If you want, if it's a neuro damage, add a little bit of zinc to it, and you can just drink as a digestive system to wash any nuclear problems. That's the best way if you're taking it, and it's the most effective way. You can wash your body with it. We see it I know this from the time in Queen Mary College when we used to get contaminated water with chemicals, but literally it's zero effect. If you have particles on your body, you can take radiation. The best source of iodine is the walnut. Just soak it for 24 hours and keep it. You can freeze it. Don't add gases to it till the time of use. And you can even use it after contamination if there's a radiation contamination. And in northern Romania, there is plenty of walnuts. We've been in that area recently, so I know very well what's going on. I've been to 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from the border very recently. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. We hope we will not use it, never.
It's there if there's a need for it, but we hope so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. There's no more hands up right now. We have a couple of questions in the YouTube and in our Q&A here. So first question from Katie Ivana. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. My question is, what technique or method should I use to achieve teleportation in the physicality? Thank you.
Teleportation in physicality does its impossibilities that you can replace and position every cell back into itself, that your leg doesn't appear on your arms and your arms on your back. The only way to do is to carry the transmutation of the soul of the man and soul of the physicality of the man. And that order will be kept when you transfer position. It needs a nuclear power station to transfer one, if can be done, cell across totally with all its characteristics and memories. It takes a small backup unit with no power supply to transfer the whole soul of the man and soul of physicality of the man. You have to understand the knowledge.
Okay. Another question from Jan in YouTube. Can we use beta plus and beta minus decay in a lead acid battery to generate electricity? How do we convert it to a current flow, and how to amplify the current to a level that can run a home?
Ask the people who know the physical side of battery making. I never did electronics and electricals.
Okay, question from Peng Peter in YouTube. What happens if two people walk into the enhancement unit instead of one? Do you get different results now that two souls are present?
What happens if the mother is pregnant with triplets? Do we leave the children behind and you just carry the mother, or carry one of the babies? It's the soul of connection. You don't need to hug each other and cuddle each other. Usually you go to a box with somebody you know. You have a connection with. And sometimes you have to accept the condition you put. You agree with it. That's the temporary we are. We travel on the soul and you go your way. I don't know if anything happened to you like this before. You've been forced to stay with somebody you have no connection, no understanding. You don't know them at all, but you have to stay in the same room or sleep in the same room. It's a weird feeling. It's happened to me once, and I don't want it to happen again. We were on a flight from London to Frankfurt, somewhere to Hamburg. And then they had to bus us down, and it was the weather so bad that they had to get any hotel to get people in to wait the storm for 48 hours. and you were given a room with another guy, you had to share, you had no choice, and it was a very strange feeling. But sometimes in space technology, we have to come to that point, but it can be done. Each soul decides on its destiny. Any other question?
A simple question from Jean-Claude. Can this heal the body?
What?
I guess he's referring to the flight unit, perhaps. Maybe he hasn't seen the other units, but can this heal the body?
We are not in a healing process. We are in process of enhancing. Healing is a job of the doctors. We don't interfere, we don't enter it. And when they couldn't understand that we are in a process of enhancement of the soul of the cell of the man, they accuse us of interfering with the medical system. We have nothing to do with medical. You enhance the condition, and the condition, if you accept it, it reaches its point of elevation.
Okay, we have Andreas with a hand up here. If you'd like to go ahead, Andreas.
Yes, good morning, good day to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. I, by mistake, opened my microphone before. We have a question out of the German-speaking community where a few questions are in one, but I believe it's understandable. It's about why coated wire connection is better as an interface than a coated continuous wire, and what does this interface do with a wire connection? How is the field flow through a wire connection?
You see, when you...
With connections of two coated wires, or with a bare wire and a coated wire? Or
if you take... Yeah, I understand this question has raised many, many times. When you have a wire, you connect between one plate and another, nano-coated. You have the matter state still inside it. So you're connecting partially on a superconductor on a nanolayer and partially through the copper wire in a molecular, what we call vibration of the atoms. When we ask you to cut and reconnect, now the matter state is taken out. The interface is only on a superconductor level, on a nanolayer. And only those which can jump that gap, they do it. I used to do this as demonstrations. If I know there's a lot of Dutch listeners and Belgians who used to come to presentations. I used to do 2 or 3 a week sometimes around Holland and Belgium. And I used to carry a small Christmas tree with me, which lights up, it flashes. And I used to connect the Christmas tree by 2 wires to a battery. And by a law of physics, there was 2 wires. And if you twist the wires together, the battery blows up the light or the battery blows up. But the lights used to come on, and we used to show the resistance, what we call isolation properties of the nanomaterials. Then sometimes we used to get the battery to be heated up. We used to come to a boiling point. This was when the matter states could not connect at the junction of the battery. And it was totally what we call nano layers to the body, nano-coated the battery, and it used to literally boil it up. And we used to disconnect it and reconnect it back again, that we lose that matter state connection established again. So it's when you cut a nanowire and reconnect it, then a full length of wire, you literally go into superconductor, energy absorption, and everything else which goes with nanomaterials. And I always cut the nanowires in connection to another, because then I take the electric current out of it. You have this, That's why some of you have a failure in your maggraph systems. You don't nanocoat properly. You think you nanocoated, but somewhere in one of the twists is not nanocoated. You are running on an energy flow. And then you say, my maggraph system doesn't work properly. One of the best ways when you make maggraph units is to nanocoat your wires before production of the coil, and then again nanocoat it when you finish the whole lot. Don't steam coat it. Go through nanocoating. And then you see you have a different performance maggraph unit. Because then you work on the energy transfer in the superconductor level, not through the electron vibration. But when you do the nanocoating of the wires, before you make the coil, make sure you don't play much with your wires. Just do the coiling. And then when you finish the whole set, you connected everything, nanocoat it once more, that you cover any earth connections, or what we call materialistic connection. Any other question? By the way, thank you very much, as you from the German group. I was in the exhibition center yesterday, and there's a lot of Germans. There's a group of 8 or 10 of them. They come in groups to the exhibition center. We try to support, and we have Maria there, who's been supporting the Keshe Foundation translation for years as a presenter in the center. It was a beautiful presentation, and now it's open. Go to the center and see. It's a touching. I had 3 powerful people around Europe with me yesterday in the exhibition center. When we went through the presentation, I presented the technology to them. They were shocked at how this technology has changed. And when I finished, they said, we set to change the course because now we understand change. And these people are decision makers. These are people who bring changes in the background to many things we do in our normal lives. And they were shocked to see. And by the time we finished, the knowledge seekers from Germany were there, and they could not understand this knowledge is so well spread in Germany and in Europe amongst the knowledge seekers. And some of these people are totally not aware of it. And his word was, I am shocked in what I have seen. And we received a report from their offices this morning. You have changed something in the 3 men. They want to see the knowledge right across Europe as fast as possible. Thank you very much for your support from Germany and Austria and the rest of the Europe who are going to the exhibition center to see the new knowledge. It's set beautifully. It brings the whole knowledge together. On the one floor, you see what we call material earth application. On the floor below is the space technology. Very simple, but very effective. A new life of the man. Above is the life of the man on Earth. Below is the life of the man in space. And it's gorgeously set up. Thank you very much to the people in the background who run this center for us, especially to Klaus, Diana, and Mario, and the rest who see these things going so smooth in Austria. Any other question?
Yes, we have several questions from Dan here. First one is glass that has aluminum oxide. This matter, silicon oxide and other oxides, by temperature, we have nanomaterials. The question is glass in the material state nano or GANs?
It's matter.
Okay.
It's still matter. The process of a GANs making is not just by heating. It's allowing to balance its energies with its environment. This is the understanding of when you create the nanomaterials. We are not in the molecular state just because we melted it or we heated it, we created nanomaterial.
Here's a similar question for, is the water on this planet in a material state, a nano state, such as hydroxide of hydrogen or hydrogen nano, or a GANs?
It's a holder of gases, but is in the condition of plasmatic field, but is a matter state condition of the matter. In the liquid, the water, like waters of the oceans, carries so much matter state, matter in them, that they partially, through some of the operation of the earth, have become nano. So you throw nanomaterial into a water, the matter state. So now the oceans are matter state, GANs condition, magnetic field, and allowing through the strength of the material fields of like universal cup to lead to creation of the specific gases which leads to life. We see this, we talked about this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, about in northern China, there is area where more or less iron oxide is prevalent on the beaches. During the summertime, with the heat of the summer and the material itself nanosizes itself. And in the spring and the winter time, with the storms and with the rain, these nanomaterials are washed away into the rivers, into North China Sea. And because of the presence of the nano iron and other materials, we see the establishment of first omics, the first cycle of life in these oceans. In a way, the way you put your nano iron in the box and you create that blood, now these nanoparticles create nano gases, which in combination with the protein which comes from the surface of the water in the revolving of the oceans with waves, leads to creation of the first life. And then these lives grow so much, that's why we see a vast fishing areas in northern China's northern seas, because the life starts on the beaches with the ions which nanocoat. And then in coming in, the water of the North China Sea becomes a GANs pot with ions in it, because they create their own magnetic field environment, and with it, with the other particles of iron which are not nano-coated and they washed in, they create the first cycle of the what we call the blood, the cycle of omics, and the same first cycle of life. And we know this very clearly. I've done a lot of work on this, and the outcome of understanding this technology is how we produce a lot of different kind of bloods. And the way you create different kind of bloods, you can create mono blood system that it fits every animal on this planet. And we discussed this, we went through this with the head of in Ghana with authorities there, because they said this fits everyone. When we took the blood to FDA in Ghana, their scientists, their leading scientists as consultants for different aspects, they immediately tested it. They said this fits the way you produce it, We can inject it to a man of any kind of blood. We inject it to an animal, it still works the same. There's a specific way to produce human blood, hemoglobin. And if you fit it, it fits everyone. It doesn't matter in deviation in animal. You cannot inject blood of a donkey to a rabbit or to a man. But the hemoglobin blood, the way we produce it, fits all of them. FDA scientists tested it in Ghana, and he was shocked. He said, this changes the whole game of the medicine. And it's so pure, it carries no infection. The purity of not carrying infection comes because of the copper nano layer. It brings that, see, in body of the man, we use sulfur and phosphorus for this job. But in the condition of the muscle tissue, why your muscles don't rot is not so much with the phosphorus, it's the copper itself, which sterilizes the cell system. And I have managed to, it's a specific way to do it. It cannot be done normal. And then you produce blood which fits every creation, every created thing on this planet, which is life. You can inject it to a plant, more or less. Any other question?
Speaking of blood, there was the next question in the YouTube was from Time, who says, I wonder, would Wim hot breathing or an alternative technique of breathing help to make all the blood of everyone also absorb and process radioactive fields?
What does that mean?
Well, I guess he's asking, are there breathing techniques that can activate the blood and help absorb or process radioactive particles or fields?
Theoretically, yes. Practically, very difficult.
So if you're a Tibetan yogi practicing for 40 years, breathing techniques, you might have a better chance or something like that?
Oh, maybe different from the womb of the mother.
Okay.
It just depends how it fits, where it fits. There's an old say, says, if it fits, it sits. So it depends. If it does fit, then it can sit in the system.
Maybe something the Romanians can practice and give us feedback on. Jan has a question in the YouTube, and another 5+1 question. Why the U.S. is putting new sanctions on Iran if Mr. Keshe believes that Iran and the 5+1 have already reached an agreement behind the scenes, while the U.S. and the West are pushing China, Russia, and Iran into a corner?
This is a policy game. It's a politic. It's a pure politic. Once this is signed, this time America is committed to it. And the way the negotiation is done is very interesting, the way Iran has negotiated. If, again, the president changes and they bring in new sanctions or change things than the 5+1 agreement of 2015, the 5+1 will put sanctions on the United States. And they have to cover more or less any damages, financial or whatever, which might come to Iran because of the sanctions. This is one of the things which Iran has got America cornered. And so that in past 2 weeks, we see a lot of juggling is partially played by the Americans, partially played by the British in the background. But in a sense, the contract is already signed. Everything is agreed. It's just playing game on talks and how to do it. And trying to pressurize Iran into another point, which you will soon understand. And we've seen it coming up with Russia. They closed their SWIFT and everything else, and the Russians only accept rubles as a payment for their oil and gas, which means the European banks have to go across with the sacks of rubles to the Russians for the payment for the heating. And this is part of the pressure they are putting on Iran to increase the production of the gas in the South Iranian fields. It's all political games played, that the Iranians reduce production to support the Russians to bring ruble into the international currency. And the Chinese are supporting it as well the same way, because they're trying to bring the BRICS into operation very cleverly. It will most probably end up BRIC becoming official currency worldwide, because they will not buy what they call rubles, but they'll accept the BRICS. It's a gamemanship by China is played in the background. And Iran is a word game victim of it for the next few days till something is achieved. But in principle, everything is done. Iran is used as a scapegoat for a lot of them to get what they want and bringing a lot of it. One of the reasons China is supporting Russia is the way the Russians have brought the Russians to push the rubles forward as a payment, but the Russians will say, okay, you can't pay us in rubles, you can pay us in BRICS currency coming up. And it's going to be a mayhem in the West if the Russians close the tap. You're talking about 9 million barrels of oil a day missing from the production, which is about 15% of the world production, and cannot be so easily replaced. And the Russians cannot put a close on it because the pipelines will chock-a-block their close. It's a gamemanship and not much to it. The biggest problem is now how China is playing Russia against the West, and by supporting and backing them. We saw it when Anatoly was arrested. They issued his warrant for his arrest. Chinese immediately backed it. We know why. We know the reason, because he financed for Vatican the uprising in Hong Kong. Any other question?
I'd like to try to get in Dan's further questions here, which are, what happens if I put rotary reactors with lead GaNs, several reactors with different speeds, or another GaNs of heavy materials? Dan wants to know what happens when he rotates his reactor with lead GaNs, or other GaNs of heavy materials.
You never touch a lead GaNs.
Yeah, I think we've told him that several times now.
Never ever touch a lead GaNs. Change the subject. Forget about it. Just go somewhere else, please.
Okay.
You never ever touch a lead GaNs, especially making it dynamic. Go and read why fuels were withdrawn and changed from the lead base. Then you understand the reason. Anything with aluminum and lead, you keep away unless you know exactly what you're doing and you work on a protected environment of it.
Yeah, they just did a test recently about the effect of the lead in the gas back in the 1960s and 70s and 50s and before that, and how much it decreased the IQ of the population during that time. And
how much increased the Alzheimer's?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other?
Okay. If Gail had a question in the YouTube, and probably some other people, about the walnut shell that you mentioned. And
it's not a walnut shell, the walnut itself.
The walnut meat, then you mean? Yeah. So she says after removing the shell of the walnut, then you dry it?
You don't need to dry it, you can still use it wet, you get that substance.
And how would people use it? Would they put it into a CO2 kit or other?
Yeah, you use it in a CO2 kit with amino acid. Because if you look, usually on top of this water, there is some oil which comes from the what they call it, walnut, you can use a hot oil and get the hot water and get it out. You can boil the what do you call it, walnut, and get the oil out plus the what do you call it, but you get other things out of it when you boil it. And you mix it with CO2 and zinc, and it's effective for nuclear fallouts if you breathe it.
Okay, how about one more question here? I think you probably want to get. Do you want to continue, Mr. Keshe? Are you okay with that, or how are you doing there? Okay.
No problem.
More from Dan. If I extract from the copper GaNs the oxygen, the same principle for tritium and deuterium, what is left? Copper material or copper GaNs? If I extract from the copper GaNs the oxygen, and the same principle for tritium and deuterium, then what is left? Copper material or GaNs of copper, or the copper field?
Have you ever done it?
Says, I know I didn't understand. That's why I ask. But,
no. You always get a copper composite when you try to extract the oxygen. Always finds another link to itself. There is a specific way to produce H3 from CH3. It's a specific way to produce oxygen, extract oxygen from copper. And immediately it absorbs another oxygen molecule. Immediately. And you find out your oxygen turns out to be very fast increasing level of water in your container, because that oxygen you separated will come mix with what do you call it, with the hydrogen in the environment. But in a specific way, you can keep the oxygen. There are a lot of people who think they make hydrogen or H2 or H3, but in fact, if you put a magnet next to it, you see it is not. You have actually got a composition of what we call iron. It is not oxygen or H2.
Okay, we have a question from Cristiano, actually from Marco from Brazil, and through Cristiano. Mr. Keshe, people who have had an angioplasty and placed a stent drink the water from the GaNs cup 1 and cup 2?
Pardon?
If people have had an angioplasty or a heart stent or some sort of artery stent or whatever, is it okay for them to drink the water from GaNs 1 and 2? I think that must mean the CO2 GaNs and zinc oxide GaNs, I think, or it means cup 1 and cup 2. I'm not sure what they mean by that.
I don't understand it, that we don't answer the question half cooked.
Okay, maybe they can reformulate the question. Nikolai says, if the 5-cup stacker we have made has evaporated all of its waters, is it best to simply refill it or to rebuild it again from the beginning? Or do we just continue to go through using the fields?
Can you repeat this?
If the 5-cup stacker that we made has evaporated all of its waters, is it best to simply refill or rebuild it again from the beginning?
Refill it. We do that all the time.
Okay, yeah. From Kleber from Brazil, is oil a GANs or a plasma, or is it really fossil? Did you get that one, Mr. Keshe?
No.
Okay, it's regarding oil.
Yeah.
So is oil considered a GANs, or is it a plasma, or is it really fossil?
Oil is an amino acid in suspension of the atmospheric field, in fact. It's like water. It's like if you can change the environmental magnetic fields of oil, you can change it to a vapor or to a solid without heat. And so it's environmental dependent. Any other question?
Second here, we've got a couple of hands up. I think Andreas was up before. Jalal is here. Would you like to go ahead, Jalal?
Yes, thank you, Rick. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Good day.
Hi, Jalal. How are you?
I am fine, Mr. Keshe. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I was talking about you a couple of days ago. Good things, not bad things. I don't know anything bad about you, but
I always talk about you every second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Mr. Keshe, I am like you, a small magician. I do not appear everything I have in my pocket.
Mhm.
So this is something I learned from you a long time ago. It's not really a question, but to understand only. Do I must see what is the output of whatever I do, not the input?
No, look at what comes to you. The output will decide itself. When you look at what you put outside, you become judge of yourself. And a man should never judge himself in that way, what I've put out, because then sometimes the arrogance takes over. I'm doing a lot.
But
Be
is it,
thankful of what you receive. The others will come to it if you're not so.
but isn't that, you know, in your teaching, you say what you are giving out is important, because what you are giving out, you receive in the you know, similar plasma.
Not
So,
necessarily. Sometimes, most of the time, you empty a gap which anything can fit in what you receive. And sometimes that gap allows you to receive a higher order because of the combination of the fields inside. We never measure by it. This is when you start measuring, is the time which you have not asked many times. You haven't done enough.
guys, with your teaching, it's always like juggling between the rock and the egg.
Oh, let's put it this way. I juggle between a stone and a stone, and if you're lucky, one side is the egg. It's the process of understanding for what you're doing and what the reason you do, and the way you do it. What you put out, the reason you put out. As I always said, you give from your soul more to your enemies because they need it. In a way, you need it to understand your enemies, that you might be the cause of that animosity, not that you might change them. So it's self-awareness, you call it, of what you receive, that you put no condition on what you give. It's a very, very fine line. It's a very, very touchy line. But you have to be there to be it. I was talking to most probably one of the most, a very powerful woman in the world of finance in the world this morning. She's a good friend. And he said, Mehran, you know, there is a problem. I get tired of having slept all night last night, trying to sort this thing for you and everything else, and I'm exhausted. I said, you know something? What we were trying to do maybe 6 months ago, you remember it didn't happen, and then you got upset with it. You said yes. I said, because we were not ready for it. I don't look at it as something went wrong. It means it wasn't the time for it. The souls couldn't agree that we can do it. And so let it be. Maybe it's not the time for it. You don't need to lose sleep. We do our best because it's to help. It's not for us. And she wrote back to me just before the teaching, says, I learned a lot and you were correct. I was expecting something to happen that time. And now it's time for it because now I see how far we were from what we were expecting 6 months ago. You have to give on a condition that there is somebody and everything else agrees with it. There's no use you giving money to a beggar who goes and spends it on a drug and alcohol and get himself more in problem of health and damaging himself and his family. You think you were generous, but in fact you created more problem, and you say, oh, I gave her €1, where am I going to get back to? In fact, you get €1 that you can demise the life of a man you might lose to, because you were partially playing it. So it never counts, it's just there to what we do, to what has to be done. Any other question? You usually have 2 questions, Jalal.
No, Mr. Keshe, it was not a question. It's only to say hello to you.
Observe.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Keshe.
much. Thank you indeed. Any other questions? Shall we call it a day?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Let me see here. From Rhino 040672 in the YouTube. When you say that hydrogen is the release of balance that allows it to exist in different compositions of amino acids, what do you mean?
Exactly what he said. All
Did
the
you get that one,
amino
Mr. Keshe?
acids, yes, all the amino acids are not the
Oops,
same.
I'm seeing your microphone moving, but I'm not hearing you. Perhaps it's on my system, but I'm not sure.
Can you hear me? Oh, Cabo says
Kay
I
says
can
he
hear him.
hears you, so
I think it's
perhaps
something
something's
wrong
gone
here.
wrong with my system. Let me see
Yeah,
if I
you pressed the wrong button. I'll sing for you till you get it. D, 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 D. Have you got it? Can you
Still,
hear it?
now I can hear for some reason, so it just kicked in. My
Yeah.
sound had kicked out for a while there, so not sure what
Okay.
happened.
Oh, it's okay. He had the time of rest. It's been used to me. As we say, always say, every man with a mustache is not your uncle. Just because you create an amino acid is not that all the amino acids are the same. Every hydrogen, a slight deviation in the strength creates a different amino acid. The same with the carbon, the same with the oxygen or nitrogen in the amino acid. So when you produce different type of gases, even while you're producing same type of gases, depending on if the cat walked by the side of it, if the baby cried, if the music was different, if your wife shouted in the corridor, it changes different composition of amino acid creating in your mixture. Because each one of them introduces or takes fields from that box you're sitting on an amplifier. But according to the emotion and the talk and whatever is there, it changes the hydrogen composition in different strengths. And it's the same when you produce different gases, maybe in the same box, you will see this. If you go back to, I don't know if you can find it in the archives, to show this in so many ways, years ago, I used to use a 24 box junction gas production system, where there were 24 boxes, and each one, many boxes, about 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, something like this. And it was a box, 24 of them. And wired exactly the same, with a slightly different salinity, or sometimes the same salinity in certain rows. And we could see production of different color gases. We didn't change anything. And then you could see different thicknesses of amino acid, different shades of colors. If you look at the amino acid on the surface of 2 different batches, you see the light on them reflects different because the energy hydrogen or whatever is a different strength on it. And in some of them, you don't see any certain shades in, doesn't matter what you do with it, which means the energy of the amino acids is different than the others. It does not absorb, or it only absorbs certain field strength. And at the moment, the knowledge is not there to be able to replicate, like when you go and buy a tomato ketchup today and tomorrow and next week and next year in 20 years' time, from Heinz, always the smells and tastes the same. But the knowledge of the gas is not that far yet to be able to replicate the exact strength. And then it needs time for scientists to develop these technologies. There is a race which is standing outside of this planet. They have mastered this game. And they look beautiful people. They have a special feature. And one day, one man become peaceful, they might teach us in a beautiful way how they do it. They have mastered the game of changing the fields in the lowest level in a single molecular atomic structure as field. They're artisans in this. Any other question? Or shall we call it a day?
Yeah, I'll just show a picture, I think, of the unit that you're talking about here that you showed in the Fukushima video.
Yeah, that's the one. If you look, this box is empty, but can you see the different shade of colors in each box? It's the same composition, the same material, but if you look at it, there are different color gases in it. Different color produced. These boxes were original first batteries, GaNs plasma batteries. Oh, that brings back a lot of memories. I used to spend days making these for one test for half an hour. Can you go back on this, Rick? Just
how far back would you like to go?
Just where this box comes in. I want to open this. Yeah. Yeah, that's good enough.
Do you want me to play it?
Yeah. Play it, just go forward a little bit.
Let me reset it here.
Totally exactly like these materials here. Clean water. You can literally drink this. You can use. Just go forward. Go forward. The same material. The same. These two boxes, if I'm correct, are the very original boxes where the energy production of the plasma was confirmed. The very first. We extract CO2. We create an environment. If you look at it when you go close, you see the wires. This is one of the contaminations. This was connected to the LED, left on the table in a normal room, and for months and months was creating light. So a specific way of developing this one is it's using nanowires like a horse tail, and this unit produced electricity for a long time. We could light. We just actually got fed up with it. We dismantled it. I've said that before. Every day I used to send a message to the fluorescence that I'm still enlightened. That was every day a message. We wanted to see how long, and it went for months and months. They gave up. Said, "Stop sending me the messages. This thing is going to go for years," and it doesn't stop. It produces about few volts and substantial current, low current. You can amplify it and use it, but it gets clogged up in ganses. And then if there's a shortcut between the plates, then you get the shortcut and they jump, and one day one gas is one color and the next day changes to another color. It goes from red to blue and then it jumps back into black. And it's a very interesting understanding of the plasmatic work. There's two of them, and they're very interesting. This was one of the very first power generating units using the plasma technology to understand and compartment it and see how it goes. And I think if I remember correctly, one wire comes out of here and one wire goes out of there. No, I think this here. We started here and there. These two positions. It came down like this, and as it went, what do we call it? It was set to go in this condition. I don't know if you see it. It's too narrow, and then it came up and it took out. And I could change the GaNs, what they call a salinity in each box, and see the voltage output. Brought back a lot of memories. Thank you very much, Rick. Shall we call it a day? Thank you very much for today. I hope we learned a little bit, or shared a little bit.
Okay, very good, Mr. Keshe. Thank you again for your time here in these Knowledge Seekers workshops. And I don't think you've missed a single one in the 426 that we've had so far. So congratulations on that. And thank you for being there for us.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here today for the 426th Knowledge Seekers Workshop on Thursday, March 31st, 2022. We'll have the next public teaching workshop will be next Tuesday. Let me get the date on that. We'll be into April, it'll be Tuesday, April 5th, which with the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace, starting at 4 p.m. Central European Summertime. Okay, I think that's it for now. And we'll go out with the Spaceship Flight Enhancement Unit music version. So everybody can clap their hands and put a smile on your face. Okay, bye for now, everyone.